thing, so I would have had to edit that as well. So it saves me two editings.
Correct.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to everybody watching this. You are watching Journey of a Question. Journey of a Question is a podcast that involves me talking to other quiz masters, friends who set quizzes, and dissecting a particular question that they've set and I've been very fond of. For the inaugural episode, I have with me Bhushan Patel, who is one of my oldest quizzing pals, if I may. I met him like a decade ago through a WhatsApp group that he had started, and he would do like some innovative things in there. We would do WhatsApp quizzes before it was cool, like before WhatsApp was a thing, even or wasn't formative years. So that's how I got to know him, and I've been fairly lucky to have attended most of the quizzes that he's done in and around. Now, of course, he does quizzes all around, but uh, largely the ones that I've attended have been around Ahmedabad, Baroda, etc. So we'll talk about one question that has stuck with me for a couple of years now. And then again, Bhushan has two more questions that we will talk about. So, Bhushan, thanks for doing this and welcome to the episode.
Right. Thank you, Javed, for having me here. And yeah, we'll start.
Super. So, I'll go to the question that I really like. And here's the question. So, to give some context to everybody, this question is from a quiz at Bhushan's college where he was doing a business quiz. And Bhushan, all yours.
Okay. So this is right at the Maharaja Sajirav University, right? This was part of their college fest, and they had to do a business quiz, right? Okay. So ethyl mercaptan is the reason behind the smell of which product that shares its initials with a fiery economic policy of India some 25 to 30 years ago, right? This
Right.
question is easily 3 years old, right?
3 years
So
old.
think of the timeline in that. Right. Three years old.
Okay, we'll give
Okay.
them about
So we'll give you time. We'll
three
give the
seconds and then you can give the answer. I think you can give the answer out now.
sure. Perfect. Right. So the answer that I was looking for this question was three letters LPG. Right.
Right.
LPG is like ethyl mercaptan is the gas added to the liquefied petroleum gas like LPG cylinders used in your house for safety reasons, as well as LPG being the liberalization, privatization, and globalization policy of the 91-92 economic reforms in India right, during the Narsimha Rao government. Right. So yeah, LPG is what I was looking for.
Super. Right. So there are like three reasons why I've really liked this. Is number one is how or rather where it's placed. So first up, it's placed in your prelims. Uh, Secondly, uh, you've factored in your audience perfectly well when you told me that this was for a set of people or you were expecting a set of crowd that has never been exposed to quizzing perhaps ever before.
Right.
So that is number two. And number three is how you would put a seemingly boring business concept in a nuanced manner that has nothing to do with business in a sense, because
Yeah.
it talks about the characteristic of a particular everyday item. Um, so these are the three reasons which is why I was really drawn towards this question. So I have, let's get started on how you got started. So I want to
Sure.
understand how is it that you go about setting questions like this or this one in particular, let's say. Is it that you figured out that LPG would be a nice answer to have? Do you reverse engineer the prelims as and when required, or did it organically just happen to set in that you found out about ethyl mercaptan and then as a natural progression instantly thought about the LPG policy?
Okay, for this question in particular, right? So this
Yeah.
is also right. One of my favorite LM questions for the set, right? So what happened was this was since this was a business business quiz, I wanted to put something on the LPG policy. Right now, the target audience were all born after 94.
Okay.
Right, because I'm born after 94 and this happened in 91, 92. This is long back before they were born. Right,
Sure.
at least like, okay, and I did not know how to put this in context per se, or like have this relate to them in right. So what I did was I tried to get a little science in related to something that I'm sure everybody has seen in their day-to-day life, because we've all seen the LPG cylinders, right?
Right.
And once my goal was to make them reach to the LPG cylinders or the liquefied petroleum gas, because ethyl mercaptan and that funda is very popular, and
Okay.
that part of trivia is very popular, right? And from there, if they reached LPG, they would reach, right, the liberalization, privatization, globalization. But I thought post which that question did not make that much sense, right? So I thought I'll just combine the two and frame it in a way that I just need the commonality, which is the initials, and then I left it at there, because then it became friendly for everybody, right? Quizzers and non-quizzers included, right? Non-quizzers by non-quizzers, I mean people who are attending the quiz for the first time. It became friendly for both of us.
Perfect. 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 So, when you say you club these two things, that has also been like a typical characteristic that I've seen with you and quiz setting. So, tell me one more thing. Tell me one more thing. Does it hurt the purest sentiment, or so to say, when you like, bring in something that is absolutely, uh, or rather conventionally not regarded as business, and then seemingly try to smoothly fit it into a business context? Does it gel well with your audiences most times or all the time?
Most of the times they do not mind. Also, I believe that this question, as much written, is also performed,
Sure.
right? So when that happens, right, when I'm on stage or when anybody else is on stage doing this question, right, there is a certain amount of performance that goes with drawing the audience to the answer,
Sure.
right, which is right. So I think that that sums it up in terms of how I can put it to a business context. And usually what I do is that yeah, I think that sums it up for now.
As far as my personal preferences go, I really enjoy uh, being a part of such a question, or like answer, trying to take a jab at such a question, or uh, framing a question in a similar manner myself. But it just so happens that sometimes I feel I take it too far, and finding that sweet spot between two contexts that are seemingly irrelevant in a themed quiz is something that I've found a little challenging all the time. But as much challenging it is, if at all it helps me arrive at the sweet spot, it is equally rewarding and satisfying
Right.
in a sense. So again, two things. uh, is this only because this is in a preliminary round, or so to say, and keeping in context your audience, do you think there is any other way in which you could have done this now, after like all these years? If you sort of glance back at your process, is there any other way you think you could have done this?
Uh, this question, no. Right. This
Fair.
question, I would keep as is throughout. Right. If this is right ever presented in other quizzes also, if at all. But I would keep this question as is, because it associates something from two different spheres, right, or two different verticals
Correct.
altogether, right, which are fairly relevant, and they have a fair commonality to the Indian population,
Sure.
right? I think both of these. So I think I would not change it. No, I
Alter it
would do
even a bit.
this.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that is one part. The other part is, now as we get into the realm of workoutability and try to make things as workoutable as possible, I am also of the opinion that when you blend in two different contexts, it increases the workout ability. Even if somebody is blind spot blank,
Yes.
there's a blind spot on one of those contexts, the other context sort of helps you derail that blind spot and arrive at the answer. As you said, if somebody just recounts all the fiery policies you've had, because you've also given the year or the rough timeline in which that happened, actually the accurate timeline of the entire process. So you've given the timeline, you've given economic policy, and you've given the reason behind the peculiar smell, which is the other context that is not related
Yeah.
in the sincere business spirit. So I think it all adds up beautifully and makes for like a very well balanced
Right.
sort of thing. Uh, but one thing, in case you were to word it, let's say, slightly differently, or let's say if you were to take this question to an open quiz, or in a slightly more competitive realm of quizzers, is there any addition or subtraction that you would think about?
Uh, not quite. I think this would be an early on elim question for
Right.
if this goes into an open quiz, if at all, right? And yeah, I don't think I would word this any differently, or I would put this in anything other than an elim, or maybe like a final buzzer round of.
Last leg to this little discussion is how this, again, the entire framing of sorts, it's a three line question, which is something that is very attractive to me. Three line question, and then again flouts the conventional norms of uh, context, your meat, and then your question. So here you're not setting any context, you are not giving any meat of sorts, you are giving multiple sort of nuggets of information, and patching it with a question that starts at an unrelated point.
Yeah.
So it's all together. So how do you take this? Like, do you think this is uh, easier in terms of your comprehension, or do you think the uh, less intimidating question like this, or like a three line question, is less intimidating, and thus it becomes more accessible, or you're driven towards solving it?
One is that I do not go for a lot of text heavy questions because uh, I myself do not like to read a lot of text based questions,
Right.
right? Because I've never enjoyed reading two-pager questions because when I started quizzing, there was this culture of two-page questions or and some such, right? And by the time you go onto the second page, or by the time you reach the end of the slide, the context is lost because you're also looking at the presentation, you're looking at the quizmaster, you're listening to what the quizmaster is saying, you're
Sure.
also discussing with your teammate, right? So a lot of things are going on, right? Now, in this whole gameplay and this is of everything that is happening, uh, I thought give because three lines is, of course, like as you put it, it's less intimidating to the people who are reading it, right?
Sure.
And then once they are done reading it, maybe they can listen to the quiz master if he or she is giving other hints, or if they are directing them towards a certain answer or whatever, right?
That is
So
true. Yeah.
yeah,
That is so true. And also, with that being said, uh, I think another angle to view this would be, since it is a shorter question, it's more challenging for you as a quizmaster to pack in more things in a shorter
yeah,
space. So, and
yeah.
it becomes easier for the quizzer because you focus on the points that they want you to focus without, being extremely wordy or verbose. So yeah, it's challenging. It's more challenging than counterintuitively to pack things in like a shorter thing is more challenging, because if you have like a longish question, it allows you room to give so
To
much more
yes,
context. So yeah,
right.
Super. Thanks for that. I think this is all I had to ask you. Now we'll quickly go to the questions that you have in store for
Sure.
everybody. Sure, take it away.
Okay. So, COVID pandemic has created a lot of problems for the entire global population, right? However, it has because of how we are experiencing it, how we are interacting with the pandemic, right? Many people are facing a lot of problems, right? In a very inherent day-to-day process of their lives, right? And
Right.
now, to combat that, these masks have been introduced where they're used by certain professionals, especially. And to just reading out, right? These are just introduced to lessen what additional disadvantage, right, that is
Right.
caused by regular masks that you're wearing to an already disadvantaged demographic.
Right. Just give them a couple of seconds and go to the answer. Of course, I know of the answer. So yeah, we'll go to the answer. Here is the answer. And Bhushan, uh, what a nice,
Right. Okay.
relevant question to start off your couple of questions. Yeah, quickly. One is relevance again, like I mentioned. So do you think this is here's a parallel conversation I was having with another guest is what I think there are two clearly demarcated schools of thought which wherein one is, oh, I'm so eager to put this question out there, I'm so excited, and sometimes I want to be the first one who does this because it's fairly popular. Sometimes it's uh, oh, I don't want to wait. Why should I wait? If I keep waiting, I'll not learn new things. If I keep holding things. So that is one. The other is I will sit on it, and I will sit on it till the context is completely wiped off of your head, and then ask it uh, to get that spark from you, because you already have that in your subconscious, and to extract that into your present memory is again going to be a fun cycle of quizzing. So where do you think you fall in these two clearly demarcated lines?
I play jump rope with those actually,
Okay.
right? It also depends on because it also depends on how much, because there is this clock, because now everybody is reading somewhat similar content, right?
Sure.
With so if you're getting something which is very fairly relevant, right? You either wait, and which is because because of online forums and some such. If you wait too long, the question is already out, right? There have
Correct.
been so many instances where I've seen the question I'm going to ask on like an online forum, and then I
A
have to
day
scrap it out.
before the quiz
Right?
or some such or whatever.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I think as soon as I find it, and if I have the bandwidth to put it out, I put it out, right? In any form, right? Yeah, either be a live quiz or an online forum or some such. As soon as I find something which I find interesting, I put it out, because I think it's pointless to also match and also try to match and compare as to, oh, if this is there on another platform or another forum, that means you should not put it out. No, if you found it and if you want to put it out, you put it out, because that's when you have
Correct.
arrived at the question.
Correct.
Right. So I think you owe it to, if you're setting the question, you owe it to yourself in putting it out, right,
Well
to
said. I
the
think
people
that's
who are
a
close to you.
that's a very fair way to deal with things, and the anxiety of, oh, they would have seen it somewhere. Yeah, so that's a very fair way to be. Yeah, sure. You were saying something.
Also, because now there is this there is this problem, right, where regularly repeated questions are called Peters, right? Okay, because the veteran quizzers have already read about it somewhere,
Hmm.
and they've already arrived at the answer. So the celebration of the whole curiosity behind quizzing, it's gone, because uh, what happened, so it's not a race, right?
Sure.
It's quizzing is like a sport celebrating curiosity, so you have to also celebrate the person who has reached there 15 minutes later,
Yeah.
or maybe through
Or
your
15
question. But
years later, sure.
yeah, or 15 years later, right? And it's right. Kushan, wherever I've spoken on this to Kushan has always told me as to this is something on the lines of this. The question is not where you take this from; it is where you take this to, right? And I think that sums up my vision or my opinion on this.
Got it. Coming back to the question, derailed a bit, but like what a fun derailment. Coming back to this, images again. There could have been so many ways to do this. You could have found like tens of different images. You stuck to these, and of course, because the image forms a central part of your question, do you think you would try to like assess the sweet spot? Do you think it would be a little more easy or helpful to people in case someone was wearing this, or like a slide video of this being worn, and then your question being asked? Do you evaluate these things, or do you think it is okay to have something that's relevant and move on?
No, I think it's okay to have something relevant and which solves the cause for the question and then move on with the question. Right.
Got it.
Because I checked out one video and the video had the exact functioning of this mask. Right. So somebody was actually talking and the person who was hard of
Got it.
hearing, the person was lip reading. Right. So in these kind of questions, I would rather just put the image, put like a representational image and then move on with the question.
Right. So slightly in the murky territory, like you don't want to give away everything, is what
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll go to the last question that Bhushan has in store for all of us. Here's the question, Bhushan.
Okay. This is the question I closed our GJQ ones वो देखो SARC quiz with.
Again, okay,
Okay. Yeah. SARC quiz.
Sam.
Okay. So according to legend, the logic behind the indelicate designs of this monument in central India, although not exclusive to this place, inversely replicate the sentiment behind the sourcing of raw materials for the construction of an entity related to a massively popular East Indian festival. I needed three answers, all linked via one, uh, right, one belief or one practice. What monument is this? What are the two opposite beliefs? And what festival?
Again, so we'll go to the answer in a bit, but um, even for a three-parter, even for a three-parter, uh, it flouts all the conventional system of like the wordiness, which is what I continue from the previous question or the one before that. Even when it's a three-parter, you manage to package it in a concise manner. So we'll talk about that. So you've this again. We'll talk about that. Let's go to the answer first. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the monument in question is the Khajuraho temple, which has the designs, right, indelicate. I mean the monuments of people engaging in sexual postures or whatever, right? The design, which is on the outside.
Sure.
Okay. The festival is Durga Puja. Now the connecting funda is right, which is the inverse of one another, is that while building Khajuraho, the in the carvings outside the temple
Yeah.
are specifically placed outside the temple so that men leave all the vices outside because right in scriptures and whatnot, right, sexuality and all these topics are considered taboo, if I may say so, right?
Sure.
And so before entering a temple, the vices are supposed to be left outside, and then you enter the temple with only pure intentions or
Right.
pure state of mind, right? Interestingly, the first soil which is used to make the Durga Puja idols in Kolkata during the Durga Puja festival, right? They are sourced from outside the house of a sex worker
Right.
because it is considered that before entering the house of a sex worker or something, men leave all the virtues outside, and so
Ah.
that soil is considered the purest soil,
Right.
right? And from that soil will the idol of the Durga Mata be made, right? So this is right one connecting line where a monument is built in such a way that men leave all the vices outside and enter with a pure heart, and the Durga Puja Funda is that men leave all the virtues outside and enter with the vice in their heart, if that can be said. So.
Brilliant. So I think on that note, like that brings me to two things that we've all discussed on and off, which is when you again say performing it, or like when you're performing the question that you've set. Uh, this makes for a great talking point, and this makes for a great, you know, let's calm down. Let's take a moment. Let's talk about something that is relevant or what to whatever is going on the slide, but is again some. It's a story. Like, come sit down. Let me take you to a story, and after we're done, we'll resume with the quiz back again. So it gives you like a great breather of sorts instead of having everything on the slide and not talking about this. I think had you not spoken about the Durga Puja idol story, this would have felt a little incomplete now that I know of the entire story that you put. So that is one is my biggest takeaway. The other thing is, do you think having like a three-parter at this juncture or in this question particularly makes it easier or uh, tougher to crack it? Like, which way does it flow?
Uh, I'm sorry. Right. So I went with rewarding for this question. I
Sure,
went with plainly rewarding because this was the last question of the quiz. I had to, the question was placed in a way that I had to end the quiz on a high.
sure,
Okay. And this is a question which a few teams got, and right. So I had to place that in that periphery. Now what I thinking back, what I do with questions is I try to make a Venn diagram, even with the
sure,
LPG question. If you
sure.
see, right, that's something from the world of science and then
Huh,
something from the world of economics, and
huh.
then merge together and coming at like one answer.
Correct,
Similarly, in this, I found a similar connection about two fairly unrelated things,
correct.
right? So I thought putting a three-parter in this was way more rewarding because if I just the interesting part for me was just the belief of men leaving, like
That's
men
the
entering
central
with
funda
virtues.
you have. Correct.
Yes, that was the central funda. But it did when I framed it, it did not seem that meaty or it did not seem that rewarding, which is why the monument and the festival were also added because then it closes the circle, right? Because the thought process is okay, Khajuraho, then the inscriptions or the carvings on the outside of the temple, then Durga Puja and Durga Puja pandals, like Durga Puja idols, and the connecting belief, right? So I think that is the thought process that I went for when they were thinking, because right, I'm sure if somebody were to arrive at an answer, they would first think of the monument in central India with indelicate design,
That is
which
exactly
is
what I
right.
was coming to. If you look at that and if you look at the question again, so when you say festival, I was thinking about how could you add more hints to this, and in the process, I
Yeah,
realized that nowhere have you mentioned that it's a religious monument or some such, because eventually towards the end you give everybody a fair sense of fair idea that this is to do with some religious uh, context, because you are asking for a festival. So that
right,
would more often than not lead somebody to a religious establishment in central India. So you have your geography set, you have the type of uh, monument set, and then you talk about sentiment and beliefs. So you take them to another geography and you take them to another context, and when you say massively popular, you did not shy away. So once world crunchy Bhushan Patel is for this massively popular East Indian festival, you did not leave any stone unturned for them to identify that this is, this is one of the top three festivals that come to your mind, or the top of the mind recall festival is what I'm looking for. I know this is not supplemented with a lot of different clues for you to fixate on a festival, which is why I want to ensure that this is the top of the mind recall. So I see how you make that transition, and I think that's very beautiful to sit here and dissect, because when you look at the other questions, you've been very choosy about the words that you put in. Like every word
Yeah.
is measured in a sense, or weighed, and then when you come to this, you're like, okay, it's a massively popular. You didn't have to say that, because you could have ended
Yeah.
it at it's a East Indian festival or popular East Indian festival, but you went all the way and you said massively popular. So I think that's a very interesting takeaway for me, and I'm sure for everybody watching this. So that's the answer, and we will quickly go to the front slide. Bhushan, thank you so much for coming on board and doing this. Before we go, of course, there are two nice things that I'd want to point at. Is there are four more episodes that are coming your way. Is number one. Number two, if you like these questions, what Bhushan does is Bhushan caters to your curiosity via emails, and he will send you a quiz newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to Bhushan's quiz newsletter, which is called That's How Volvo, I will drop the entire process link in the description, and you can get in touch with Bhushan at whatever time you want, and get enrolled to that subscription. I am subscribed, and I can vouch that it's a very entertaining 5 minute break from the daily routine that we're all used to. So go for it. Get quizzes in your mailbox. That's about it. Bhushan, thanks for doing this. બહુ મજા આવી, અને I'm sure everybody is going to take away something or the other, or just enjoy this entire journey of a
Hopefully.
question.
Right. Anyway, thank you so much, Jalaj, for calling me over for the first episode. And all the best to you for the subsequent episodes. And yeah, thank you all of you for tuning in.